Alright guys, it's the moment of truth. 2024 Indian Scout 101. I will put the specs up on the screen. I am not going to spend a lot of time on this ride necessarily talking about specs. We shall see. I have a theory about this bike. I am expecting this bike to feel pretty much identical to my FTR, but just be in Scout clothing. Waiting for the stupid screen to come up. We'll keep it in standard. It does feel like my bike. Okay, so what I was saying was I expect this bike to feel a lot like my FTR with forward controls. Riding position is probably more like the Sport Chief than the FTR. Oof, I'm not going to like this clamshell, that's for sure. Okay, so I was in standard mode. We will not be in standard mode for long. The seat's nice and cushy. I dig it. You know, forward control is not quite as forward as the Chief or anything, but far more like that than the Scout. Might actually be even farther forward than, I don't know. This is probably the same exact as the Scout that I just rode, the Scout Classic. I don't know. I feel like it's really far forward. Just finished riding the Scout Classic, which has, you know, your traditional swept-back handlebar. I'm sure that's what it is. You know, what I was saying about the Scout Classic is it's almost a crying shame in first gear, just getting underpowered. This bike does not have that issue at all. Same switchgear as the FTR, same ride command digital unit as the newer FTRs, unlike mine, my 2022. Nice big round mirrors. I'll tell you, if they make these handlebars for my bike, I'll probably swap out the nice ones that I got for free for these, just because, you know, that they're actually pretty damn nice. Look almost identical to the ones I have on my bike. They're just a little tiny bit bigger, which I think might be helpful. Got Brembos on this bad boy. Yeah, that's an FTR. It feels just like the FTR in first gear, 100%. So my theory on the Scout engines, you know, the old Scout, before they did this redesign, Indian used to say, oh no, the FTR V-twin, new engine, it's not the Scout engine. And you know, let's be honest, when you built it and you own the marketing, you can probably advertise it however you want and do so rationally in your own mind. I'm sure they took the basic Scout engine and architected the hell out of it, tuned it, changed this or that, and in their minds, they can call it a completely dedicated engine for the FTR. Probably doesn't make a lot of financial sense to have two smaller V-twins like that, but hey. Anyways, then they come out with the new Scout and the Indian Scout 101, and it's basically a sportier Scout. Good lean angle, great power, revs high, basically describing it like my FTR R Carbon. And my guess was, well, they probably just took the FTR engine, polished it up, put a new case on it, and off it went into the 2024 Scout. I think that's what they did. I mean, just riding around here, first, second, third, this feels just like the FTR. Immediate down low grunt, immediate power on command as soon as you turn the throttle. This is just in standard gear. I'm about to put it into sport mode because why not? Transmission, nice and responsive, clicks right into place. Sport mode. Let's see, find neutral. Easy. Feet are perfectly flat on the ground. So I think this bike has a little higher seat height than the Scout Classic because of the suspension, but you won't really notice it. Now on the FTR, you know, you're redlining at like 9,000 RPMs. That's what this bike redlines at. Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine a company like Indian would make two engines of the same class and not just have different versions of the same thing, and that's what they're doing. And that's okay, because let me tell you something, guys. The FTR engine is amazing. Rev that bad boy for days. And not just high up in the RPMs. I mean, in every gear, all RPMs, you got plenty of power. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, it can behave itself cruising as well. What I would say to you is, if you're in the market for a bike and you're thinking, gosh, FTR Indian Scout 101, go with the one that makes you more excited, you know, that you think looks better, because I'm telling you, you're going to get a lot of the same experience out of them. I mean, I already feel pressure at the back of my neck between my shoulders from my seating position. I'm getting a strange rubbing sensation when I upshift. But yeah, I mean, basically it's which bike do you like better? I'm sure the FTR has a little better ground clearance. You know, if you're seriously thinking about the Scout 101, I mean, that's probably not your top priority. Like, yeah, you want the Scout 101, you want that ground clearance, but, you know, you're not running out to buy leathers either, like me. You know, so if that's the only reason you'd buy an FTR over a Scout 101, ask yourself, you know, how am I actually going to ride the bike? Perfectly stable, maneuverable, turns with no effort, as every Indian does. I know there are folks who said the old version of the FTR, God, it was slow to turn in. I mean, maybe for someone who does motorcycle reviews for a living and needs something to talk about, you would notice that sensation. Yeah, that is the FTR. Oh, there's something going on with the transmission on this bike. I'm feeling some weird feelings from the clutch. I feel plenty of wind, no buffeting. Buffeting meaning wind hitting your helmet like a woodpecker knocking on it. I'm only in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Not really going fast enough to really do a buffeting test with this little windshield. But look, I'm really impressed with the bike, guys. I really like it. I love the power. You already know that because I already own this power. I'm not crazy about the seating position. You know, I'm more comfortable on my FTR. You know, having said that, I ride the FTR for like an hour at a stretch. Ride for an hour, take a 10-minute break, ride another hour. Like, I'm not riding 10 hours in a day like I used to on my baggers. Totally different riding. It's got cruise control. No need to give it a test. It works like a charm. Use it all the time. It's got, you know, Indian's digital cruise ride command. I'm not going to play around with it. Feel free to check it out on their website. I am not a ride command kind of guy anymore. You know, very impressed with Harley's new operating system and their screen. We'll see how it goes over the first year. See how Indian responds, because their ride command needs to respond. Ooh, shifted into first by accident. I don't think it really mattered. Again, chased test ride. My feet keep getting caught in the shifter. Serious stopping power. No lack of control. I mean, that was not a big deal emergency braking test, but you know, I gave it a good squeeze. Yeah, I mean, it's a really nice bike. It's beautiful, visually stunning. I can't wait to see what kind of pipes folks come out with for this bike. Engine sounds really nice while I'm sitting on it. Yeah, I'm really feeling it in my shoulders, my back. Could just be it's the third bike like this I've ridden. Forward controls, leaned over, clamshell. I do not get this sensation on the FTR. You know, I didn't think to look at the price. I think this is 17 grand. You're kind of right there with the Sportster S. It looks superior to the Sportster S. Sportster S, in my opinion, is hideous. I think the FTR is beautiful. I think this is beautiful. I mean, looks-wise, I could go either way. Since I already have an FTR, it would not occur to me to get a Scout 101. It doesn't offer me anything I don't already have, and a less favorable riding position, in my opinion. But that's me. If you're shopping, you got your eyes on both. Pick the one that makes you most excited. Pick the one you think you're gonna get off, walk away, and turn around more often than not. I mean, I've done that on all my bikes every time I stop riding, so it's pretty easy to buy a bike that does that for you. But see which one makes you nervous. Buy that one. Nervous because you might get yourself into a spot of trouble, or nervous because, gosh, that's more than I wanted to spend. I have to have that bike. No, don't do that. Don't ruin your ownership experience with money issues. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way this engine feels compared to the version that's in the classic Scout, I'd have a hard time justifying buying the classic Scout over this. I would almost rather buy this engine and just customize the bike. You know, you don't want it to be a sport Scout, a Scout 101. You want some swept back handlebars, go get them, man. Do whatever you want to this bike, but get this engine, not the base engine. I don't know if it's because that bike doesn't have rider modes. They just neutered first gear a little too much. I don't know. This, of course, is far more like what I am riding myself, so I'm far more used to it. Feels comfortable, feels like everything I expect. A true pleasure. But that Scout Classic engine was a little in first gear. And again, you know, the only reason I really care is because I would recommend that bike as a beginner bike. Something you can grow into. But because first gear is off a bit, I'd be worried about someone maybe giving it too much throttle and getting themselves into a spot of trouble. Maybe go look for a used Scout. Or look for a Scout 60. I'll tell you, you know, it only has 5 gears, but other than that, you're not going to miss anything on a Scout 60. We'll see what they do. There may be, I doubt it, this is probably my imagination, something that feels a little beefier about this than the FTR. Where, you know, FTR is a sport bike. This is not. I mean, it is. It absolutely is. But it doesn't look like one. I don't know. You know, 55 miles an hour, no buffeting, plenty of wind noise, plenty of wind. I can't say it, you know, it feels that much different than my naked FTR at this speed. Wonder what it will feel like on the highway. Going significantly faster than 58. I think I already told you, 5'5" 29" inseam, flat foot without a problem, nice bend in my knees, bike is perfectly comfortable. Every Scout is like this. Got your adjustable suspension. I have not adjusted the suspension on my FTR. I really am comfortable with the way it was set when I got it. I should probably play around with it. You never know. Always possible to get some room for improvement. Would I get the Chief or the Scout 101? sport sheet for the Scout 101. 100% every day and twice on Sunday, I would get the Scout 101. Now, I love me some Thunderstroke action, and that bike's got a lot of down low grunt, but so does this, and this bike will keep on going when the Thunderstroke is asking to call it a day. And I think the Scout's a prettier bike, to be honest. Just my personal taste. I would say the areas where this bike feels a little different than the FTR are like the clutch. The transmission feels a little heavier, whereas on the FTR everything is so light and buttery smooth. Like shifting takes no effort, clutch no effort. This bike gets a little heavier. Honestly, it feels a little more substantial. You know, one thing about the FTR, like I think of it as like a little toy, a sport bike, super fast, super light. Everything in it is kind of light, including the clutch, the transmission. This feels a little more lofty, a little more weighty, a little more substantial. FTR does not feel bad in those ways. It just, you know, it's different. If people ask me, you know, would you ever trade your FTR for a Scout 101? For me, the answer is no, because I prefer the FTR's riding position better. If I bought this bike, I would just go and turn it into a cruiser and enjoy the engine and the suspension, you know, and the looks of it, but I'd still need an upright seating position. But yeah, that's it for the Indian Scout 101. Fine bike, really like it. It's absolutely beautiful. It is, to me, it's just an FTR in Scout clothing, and that is a great thing. You know, it gives you variety for the power, performance. I don't know what the lean angle of this is compared to the FTR. I can't imagine that the FTR isn't a little more impressive. But yeah, fine motorcycle, absolutely beautiful. Highly recommend if this floats your boat.